Fire in Chengsha forces over 1,000 people to evacuate. Dozens of people are injured in multiple vehicle clash near Transitional. TikTok delivers detailed defense in U.S. hearing. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. More than 1,000 people were evacuated after a number 3 alarm fire erupted at a warehouse in Chengsha this afternoon, with firefighters currently still trying to put out the flames. The smoke that emerged from the fire affected nearby apartments and at least 5 schools. Some workers who escaped from the warehouse said the blaze started when some polystyrene in the building caught fire. Timothy Lee has our top story.
Black smoke blanketing the area by the building. All of it originating from the second-floor window of this warehouse. Fire services personnel quickly showed up, trying to quell the fumes and flames. Several even tried breaking into the structure. 2 firefighters felt unwell during the operation and were sent to hospital for treatment. Police officers were seen wearing gas masks. Whether the fumes are of a poisonous nature has not been confirmed. The incident occurred at the Yunfa warehouse on 1 Facheng Street in Chengsha. Fire services received a report of a fire at the building at around 2 this afternoon. In just 20 minutes, the blaze was classified as a number 3 alarm blaze. Though reports said the warehouse is not in use, there were about 10 people working on the second floor of the structure where the fire started. They managed to flee the building, while 2 received light injuries. Some of them noted that they saw polystyrene catching fire. This worker said the second floor only contained polystyrene and some metallic objects, and that he fled the warehouse when his colleagues notified him. Nearby schools and apartments were affected by the fire. This woman said she smelled something odd in the kitchen before realizing the situation when they went out to the hallway of their apartment. As of 3 this afternoon, more than 1,000 residents of the neighboring housing complexes, including Hoi Tak Court and a transitional housing project, had to be evacuated to Namcheong Station. Fire services personnel are stepping up efforts to put out a number 3 alarm fire at a warehouse on Chengshawan's 1 Facheng Street. As you can see behind me, black smoke continues to emanate from the building as firefighters attempt to hose down the blaze. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
4 coaches and 1 truck collided on Transitional Road this afternoon, resulting in 87 injuries, half of them students. Rescuers say the accident was mainly caused by a taxi's sudden change of lanes, resulting in other vehicles not being able to stop in time.
This accident involved a lot of kids, young kids, and another group of elderly people on the 4 coaches. It takes a lot of manpower for our department to take care of them all. And we need to calm them down after the traffic accident. And also because one of the coach that's carrying all the elderly people is collided with the vehicle in front, and the door cannot be opened normally. And we will have to use the emergency exit to get all the elderly people out, and that's taking us quite a lot of time.
The 3 coaches were carrying school children returning to school after a school trip. One student said he was sleeping when the coach crashed the bus in front, and everyone felt pain. 11 students were sent to hospital today after being injured by having contact with hydrogen peroxide in a secondary school in Chengyi. The accident happened in a laboratory at Lok Sin Tong Leung Chik Wai Memorial School. The Fire Services Department said a report was filed at around 10 a.m. saying some students had their skins splashed with hydrogen peroxide during an experiment. 11 students injured their hands and were sent to Princess Margaret and Yanchai hospitals, respectively. The Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China has criticized the Hong Kong Ice Hockey Association for mismanagement. This after an anti-government protest-related song was played instead of the Chinese national anthem during an ice hockey match in Bosnia involving the city's team almost a month ago. Board members of the Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China, or SFNOC, met today to discuss the reports submitted by the Hong Kong Ice Hockey Association. They agree that the team leader and the athletes reacted the right way at the time of the incident, such as displaying a T-hand gesture to indicate the anthem should be stopped. But Timothy Falk, president of the committee, said it was obvious the Hong Kong Ice Hockey Association's improper governance was to blame. In a statement released this evening, SFNOC noted there was a lack of division of labour and monitoring among the executive committee members of the association. Moreover, chairman of the association, Mike Young, had little knowledge of the incident before the team leader returned to Hong Kong and failed to answer questions from SFNOC. SFNOC said that is not ideal and reflects members' lack communication and stressed the team leader should not shoulder all responsibilities alone in this incident. The comments came a day after the team leader involved, Annie Kwan, said she was innocent. Edgar Yang, Honorary Secretary General of SFNOC, said 45 sports groups in town have received the proper tools and instructions and haven't made any mistakes. He added it's clear to the public who's right and wrong in the case. Meanwhile, the group will submit an analysis of the incidents to the government and discuss the penalties for the parties involved, including suspending the membership of the Hong Kong Ice Hockey Association. The Law Society will visit Beijing next Monday, where members will discuss issues including the Hong Kong national security law. President Chan Chak-ming said today that the group will visit the Supreme People's Court and different ministries in the capital. Chan said while it is a tradition to send delegates to Beijing every year, this upcoming trip will be the first in 3 years. The CEO of social media platform TikTok was grilled by a U.S. congressional committee Thursday to make the case for why the popular video sharing app should not be banned. Tracy Furness reports.
Shouzi Chu, the CEO of TikTok, made a high-profile appearance before a congressional committee as both FBI and officials at the Federation Communications Commission have warned about privacy issues concerning the sharing of personal data. A main concern is that TikTok's parent company is Chinese-owned ByteDance, with offices in Beijing.
Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China. We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action.
The 40-year-old Singaporean has helmed TikTok for the past 2 years and has seen growth of more than 1 billion users around the world, including over 150 million in the USA. He was grilled by Congress members on a number of issues.
TikTok spied on American journalists. Can you say with 100% certainty that neither ByteDance nor TikTok employees can target other Americans with similar surveillance techniques?
Chair Rogers, I first of all disagree with the characterization that is spying. It was an internal investigation.
Yes or no? Can you do surveillance of other Americans?
We will protect the U.S. user data.
TikTok users in New York do not seem concerned too much about data privacy.
I've heard a lot of stuff about how they're just going to ban it for government officials because they're wary about, security issues, and that makes sense. But I'm not sure what it would mean for people like us, just general people. I mean, I don't have very much impressive stuff on my phone or whatnot, so I don't know what anybody would want with that.
Beijing's foreign minister said Friday that China never asked enterprises to illegally collect data and urged the US to stop cracking down on Chinese companies. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Still ahead on tonight's news. Protest against pension reform escalates in France. Former dairy farm staff quarters to reopen to visitors. Welcome back to TVB News. The UK's King Charles has cancelled next week's state visit to France after the country saw its worst rioting since the introduction of pension reforms. It's estimated at least 1 million people took to the streets. David Garrett reports.
Shot on a mobile phone, this shows Bordeaux Town Hall on fire. This was no accident. Protesters deliberately set fire to the seat of power as anger over pension reform continues to reign. The number of towns with people on the streets is increasing. This is Rennes in the northwest, where demonstrators clashed with police. Rioters throw fireworks at police who take cover behind shields. Officers had to use tear gas and water cannon to break up crowds. There were similar scenes in Nantes, Nice, Toulouse and Marseille. The Interior Ministry said close to 250,000 people came out to protest in Paris. Across the country, the number was estimated to have been in the millions. The majority of marches were peaceful, but there was widespread disruption to public transport as unions called strikes. Rail workers blocked tracks at Paris's Gare de Lyon station. There were delays at Charles de Gaulle Airport. The Eiffel Tower was closed. Protests are even spilling out beyond French borders. These groups showed their disgust outside the embassy in Athens.
We are telling to our French friends that we are all together, even in Greece, even in Italy. All Europe is behind them and we want to support them, and I think we can win this fight if we stay together.
President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Brussels for an EU summit. On Wednesday night in a TV interview, Macron told viewers, "Do you think I enjoy doing this reform? No, I could sweep the dust under the rug." But 24 hours on, that sentiment seems to have fueled the anger. As nightfall approached, hundreds of riot police were on the streets of Paris again. Some youths took out frustrations on businesses, smashing windows and throwing bottles. The mood darkened as night came. Fire crews were called to multiple locations as garbage was set ablaze. Dozens of arrests were made in the capital alone as some police officers were injured. David Garrett, TVB News.
Locally, the Pok Fu Lam farm is reopening to the public. The Grade 1 listed building is the former Old Dairy Farm staff quarters. Mimo Singai has more.
Back in the day, this is the uniform that dairy farm worker wore. They will also need to bring along their staff cards. How about these milk glass bottles? Do they give you a sense of nostalgia? All of these can be found at the Pok Fu Lam Farm Museum. The site is formerly the Old Dairy Farm Senior Staff Quarters, known as Bremer. It became a museum under the government's revitalization scheme. The aim of this revitalization project is to conserve the surrounding buildings and their artifacts and show what the dairy farm was like decades ago. The farm was initially opened to visitors in April last year, but it was a soft opening. The official opening day for the public is on Monday.
We expected that will be around 25 to 30% increase in the coming year because we have already having much calls and also reservations to our restaurant and also for our venue booking.
Here the visitors can relax at the farm.
I think it's a place that people appreciate as a place for healing, for relaxation, and for even for wedding. So we anticipate more and more people will come and enjoy the place with the Pok Fu Lam villagers.
Visitors can join free guided tours organized by the Pok Fu Lam Farm and local villagers to experience the history and culture of the farm and the surroundings. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin says her team are reviewing the revitalization scheme.
And our target is to complete this review within this year. Basically, the general directions is to streamline with a view to facilitating worthy applications and expediting the approval process and the eventual construction process. To visit, you must book an appointment online. It costs $6. Mimo Singai, TVB News.
A transitional housing project located in Kwai Chung will cease to accept applications from residents by next Friday. Timothy Lee reports.
This transitional housing project, located at the junction of Yaomaham Road and Chengwing Road in Kwaicheng, offers close to 220 units for potential residents. The completed structure will take up around 4,000 square meters of land and be 4 stories high. Each unit will be built with a large window to provide natural light and ventilation. As of now, the Society for Community Organization, or SOCO, said more than 400 applications for the transitional housing project had been received. Meanwhile, SOCO is campaigning for extending the tenancy period from the current 3-year time span.
The applicants, they are concerned about how long they can live here, the length of the tenancy, because they worry if they are lived only 2 or 3 years and then they need to move out. They worry about they will need to return to the subdivided flat and the poor conditions. For some of them, they are living. Their application for public housing is less than 3 years. So they would like to ask the government to increase the ratio for those under 3 years.
Since the units do not provide basic electric utilities, SOCO said it is seeking sponsorships.
A typical unit here will contain basic amenities, including a bathroom as well as a sink. The more than 200 units set to be built at this Kwaicheng transitional housing site are estimated to be complete by September and could house up to 700 residents. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.